Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I've got for you a couple of really good tackle storage tips. These are things that I utilize down here in the basement bait shop, and I just find them to be really good. And I've actually gotten a couple questions recently regarding storage. So I just kind of wanted to walk you through a couple of things that you might want to have if you've got kind of a pile of overflowing tackle like I do. You know, I just got back from Texas, and one of the positives of that trip is while I was gone, I actually was able to have my windows finished down here in the basement bait shop. We had new windows put in the house because the windows we had were pretty shoddy and not holding up well to our Wisconsin winters. And I had them, they were completely finished. So all the framework and everything is done, which means my basement bait shop, which is a disaster right now, can all be kind of put back together. So that's one of the things I'm going to start doing now, right after this video, is just kind of organizing everything, getting everything put back the way I like it, which will be really nice because right now my workbenches down here where I do my rod building are just a disaster. And I'll show you here in a second, but once I get this cleaned up, I can start doing some more rod building. I can just get everything organized the way I like it. Just been a disaster for a couple of months now while we've been waiting to have the work done here. And now that it's finished, I can start putting everything back together. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. So Deep Dive has just also introduced stream flow. Now this is a really cool feature that shows all of the water input coming into certain reservoirs and the amount of water coming in. So they measure it in cubic feet per second. You can see in this case, this is just a small creek, but then you can see the projected as well as the previous flows. If we move up the lake here, get into one of the larger rivers coming in, you can see here that we've got 490 cubic feet per second. And then it shows you that there's not much of a change expected. Now, if there's some rainfall coming, I'm sure those projections will change. If we scoot on over here to take a look at Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake, much larger river systems, the Tennessee River, you can see what the projected outflow is going to be there, 28,000 cubic feet per second. Go check the Cumberland River here. We got 9.4 thousand cubic feet per second. Just an amazing feature that allows you to see all of the different water flows coming into the different parts of the lake. You can see which ones might be the most affected, which ones won't be affected, see what the projected outflow schedules are. A major feature to help you catch more fish. And that's on top of some of the other new features like the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most, as you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy, rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water. So one of the viewer questions that I got that spurred this video for me had to do with how I store all of my rods. They actually watched a video that I did. Actually, it was a live stream that I did with Todd Castledine, and they could see that my rods were hanging from the ceiling up here. You can see it. So I wanted to show you what I did because that viewer wanted to know specifically how I store my rods. And Like I said, guys, it is a disaster. Disaster down here, just so you can see. I mean, this is my rod building bench. Just a disaster. Trinkets, little things everywhere. We had to take everything off the walls, off the shelves, and it's a disaster. Okay, so getting back to the rods. This is one of the best ways I've ever seen to store rods. As you guys can see, I've got a whole bunch of rods. These are ones that I've built that are ready to go. These are ones that are ready to be thrown in the boat. And then over here, I've got some more blanks that I can build. Now, that's a lot of different rods. And what I've done here is I've actually taken, this is an old curtain rod. This is a curtain rod I had in my first condo when I was living in Chicago. And I took it down, brought it with me, and I had it in storage. And then one day I was like, you know what? This would be a great way to store my rods, because one of the issues that I've got down here in the basement is, you can see, it's not a real tall ceiling. It's probably, I'm going to say it's probably right around the 7-foot mark. And because of that, traditional rod racks, like this mud hole rod rack, I can't have everything stand straight up because it hits the ceiling. So because it was hitting the ceiling, I couldn't just take a rod rack and put it on the wall and therefore, you know, tack them to the wall like a lot of people do. And that's one issue a lot of times when you're dealing with basements. The ceilings just are not as high as they are in other parts of the house. And a lot of people that I know that have lots of tackle generally get delegated to the basement, which is where my basement bait shop is. So these rod racks, or these curtain rods, come in really handy. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, you know, I can just screw it in using the same mount. I've screwed it into a stud there. But the cool thing with these is these curtain rods are, like most curtain rods, are telescopic. They'll expand or shorten. So, you know, if I, for some reason, got rid of a bunch of rods, I could actually take this, and you can see I can just slide the rod back up into the middle and shorten it. But more than likely, what I'll need to do is actually expand it. So I can just pull that rod out, which gives me more space to hang a bunch of rods. Now, in this case, you know, I think it's a good way to store it. The rods are supported both by the handle on the back side, and then a good portion of the rod, you know, I'm probably, I'll say 4 feet down, holding it up. So the rods are out of the way in a great place, and it works really well. So that's the first thing I wanted to share with you. The second is this stupid thing. I mean, this is just a typical storage rack, but I do think that this is one of the best pieces of storage items that I've ever bought. So this I just purchased at a, I want to say it was at a Lowe's. Could have been a Menards, could have been a Home Depot. I don't recall, but I want to say it was about $100. You know, it is a metal frame, but it works really well. And one of the reasons I love this, not just because it gives me racking, which is how I store a lot of my tackle. Like, for instance, this works really well for me because I have all of these boxes. I label each box, and then, so like this is some older jerk baits. You know, if I just pull ones out, I know what they are. So that's my frog box. So when I go to tournaments, what I'll do is I'll come down here and be like, okay, I'm going to a lake where I need my frogs. I'll grab the frog box, take boxes out of the boat, put them back here. It's really easy way to keep my tackle storage is just in different boxes. But I love this rack, this one specifically, because it's all done with the iron. And the iron allows me to hang a lot of my musky baits and big glide baits. So it's a really good way for me to store the stuff, keep it out of the way, but at the same time, it's just an easy way for me to pluck a bait off the wall. And I'm actually running out of room for these. But, you know, it's hard to store your big glide baits, your big musky baits. And because I've got just the simple wire or the iron rungs, I can just throw the hook up there. Really easy. You know, you can buy these same storage racks that are made out of like heavy duty plastic, things like that. But just having the ability to hang things, hang hooks, is something I really like. So if you do have a tackle room and you've got a ton of boxes, I highly recommend getting some sort of shelving unit, and more specifically, I think you might want to get one that's actually got the iron in it. Now, one other thing is, you can see on the tackle, the desk here, you can see it's a complete mess. Well, I have, let me put you down here. I have so many loose hooks, so many different loose pieces that really becomes a cluster down here. One of the things, like I said, I got to do is just get all of this stuff organized. And some of the boxes that I really like are these Gamakatsu G boxes. They come in a bunch of different sizes. I've got a whole pile of them over there. And what I love about these is a really good way, not just to store terminal tackle, more specifically hooks, in the boat, but it's a really good way for me to kind of store a lot of my loose hooks. You know, when I've gone to a tournament, I use some hooks, take them out of the container, you rig them up. Sometimes I put them back, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't want to put them back in the container that I got them out of because they've been used, but they're not worth throwing out because they're still good. Well, that's when I take these boxes and I'll just start throwing hooks in them like this. You know, it's really nice because they've got all of these slots. Hey, can you see that? Like the slots that are built in. So, you know, when I'm working at my desk, let's see if I can find a hook. So here's a ball head that I cut off one of my rods the other day. I can take them and you just slide them right in like that. And it's a really easy way to take all of my loose hooks, put them into certain places where I know I can get them. You know, so I'll have one that's like for jig heads. I'll have one that's just straight like EWG and worm hooks. Just a simple way to keep them organized. And for me down here, you know, what I've experienced is the more loose hooks that I have out on my desk, the more they randomly fall on the floor, the more the kids get into them. I don't want to have any issues with somebody stepping on a hook. So it's really important for me to keep them all together, and that's a really good way for me to do it. But those are just a couple of simple tips. I'd love to know from you guys, what are some simple storage tips that you utilize and find to be invaluable, whether you have a big basement bait shop like I do, or maybe you just have a little corner or room with all your tackle. I definitely am starting the reorganizing process, and it's going to take me a while. So if you've got some tips for me, I'd love to know. Yeah, just share it in the comment section. Otherwise, hopefully this answers the viewer-specific question regarding the rod racks. It's just a curtain rod. Works great. Highly recommend. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I'm going to get back to organizing this, so hopefully in one of the future videos you see how much cleaner it is, and I can get back to building some rods. I'm excited to do that. So thanks for watching. Appreciate all the support. Stay tuned. New video coming out tomorrow.